Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Sunday Morning Coffee with Lisa. I'm Spiritual Coach Lisa Hopp. It is Sunday, June 21st, 2020. If you're new to my podcast today, welcome. Please be sure to check out my website at lisahopp.com. That's lisahopp.com for all my services, for the books that I've written. Appointments are available to anyone around the world. I do sessions, conduct sessions via Zoom and telephone. If you're not in the local area, if you are in the local area, in-person sessions are now available again. All sessions, by the way, are scheduled via online scheduling. So go on there and check out the sessions and the calendar. And I hope to talk to you or see you very soon. And for all of those coming back, well, of course, you're also welcome to make an appointment. Thank you so much for your support and your feedback. I appreciate your comments very much. Please like, subscribe, share, whatever you're called to do. I would appreciate it so very much. So with my raspy voice today, I welcome you to my podcast. And I wish all of the fathers a very happy Father's Day today. Not only to the biological fathers, but also to the adopted fathers, to stepfathers, to godfathers, the emotional fathers. Those men that step in when they're called to step in. We appreciate you so very much. Fathers are important. For those of you who have listened to my podcast before and remember my Mother's Day podcast, fathers play an equal role, a different role, but an equal role. For fathers, the role of being a father in a person's life is to provide security, to provide a protection, to provide a solid foundation. So when that father role is missing, when a father passes young or he's left the family, it can't help but leave a crack in the foundation. So you may find if that happened to you, perhaps you're a little bit more protective of yourself or more cautious. Perhaps you feel that there's something missing in your life, a sense of security or protection. Perhaps some of you, sadly, grew up with an abusive father, and so you would have troubles at this time with trust and also that feeling of security and having protection. The one you should be able to count on the most is the one that most betrayed you, and so you can't help but look around and want to put an energy of protection around yourself so that it doesn't happen again. It's completely understandable. And for those fathers who are listening, it's so important to provide that security, that protection. It's also so important to provide communication, to be honest. We look to our fathers for that security. We look to them to, when they're there, we look to them to give us a sense of protection, to give us support, to, yes, still provide food, to provide shelter. It's not saying that a mother can't do that and hasn't stepped in to do that, of course. But when a father is there, we naturally look to that relationship in order to do that. And so, fathers, when you are struggling with that, it's all right to tell the children that there is a struggle going on, but it's also important to tell them that it's being worked on and that you'll all come through it together. Now, children know, even if you take it into a different room, even if you think you're sheltering them, they always know because they arrive on this earth with a developed intuition, developed emotions, empathy. So they're going to pick up when something is being struggled with, when something is off, when their parents are upset. If one of their parents is upset about the other, when something isn't going the way that we would want it to. Children know. So it is very important not to put the burden on them, of course, because we don't want to do that. But it's all right to share because it develops their trust, because they're feeling it anyway. So you might as well confirm that feeling. And then as a family, work on coming through your times together victoriously and successfully. Always providing love, understanding, and support. But today is your day. So I hope you get acknowledged today, and you have a wonderful day. Just something to keep in mind. So what's the topic today? Well, good people, the times they are changing. Have you felt that the world is upside down? I see the world being a bit upside down. And what do I mean by that? Well, as I've told you in more than one podcast, and if you're new, you'll be hearing it for the first time, but we are going through change. We are going through an energetic change. We are coming into an energy on Earth that is called by some a 5D energy. I like to call it heaven coming to Earth. And it's a very light, loving energy. And this energy cannot arrive on Earth as long as there is hatred, as long as there is bigotry, as long as there is prejudice, as long of any kind, as long as there are dark shadows within us. And so in order to have that energy, those dark shadows come and clear out, well, they're rising up, and they're being shown. We're all bringing them up. Even I am bringing my dark shadows up. And it can be very confusing. It can make you feel lost. It can make you feel emotional. You may be dealing with more depression than you ever have. I'm in a bit of a new depression myself right now, but I'll work through it. But if you, please, feel that you're having difficulty working through your depression, please seek help. There are resources out there. I found earlier this year, when I was experiencing the deepest depression I've had in, over 30 years, I found that I felt I wasn't heard, but I didn't blame anyone for that. I just noticed it. I noticed that people weren't aware of how I was truly feeling, even though I felt I was talking about it. And it was an illumination for me, because I've heard that before from people who have experienced depression, that they weren't heard. And it has caused them, even at times, to perhaps even attempt suicide because they're not being heard. But I did not come entirely to that place. But I did come to the place where I completely got to see what they were talking about. And I don't know if it's a human quality, or if it's just because we get busy in this world, or maybe we're just coming from our own place and we have naturally our guards up. Maybe people around me just couldn't deal with how I was feeling. I don't know. All I know is that I saw it. And so I felt very much alone. I felt like I was drowning. And it was up to me to figure out how to save myself, to be honest. But I would tell you that I arrived on this earth an incredibly spiritual person. I knew as a toddler that I was here to be a spiritual teacher. So I've always had my spiritual crew to turn to. I've always had that strong foundation. But not everybody has that. So I could turn to my angels, my spirit guides, my departed loved ones, and I could say, help, please, help me. I could turn to the Blessed Mother Mary and know that I would be heard. But not everybody has that spiritual solid foundation. By the way, you have the same helpers I do, so please turn to them. But what I'm saying is that I had a little bit more resources than the usual person. And so it is so important for you, if you feel at any point during these times that you are drowning, to reach out to Suicide Prevention Hotline, to talk to a licensed professional, to of course also seek out your spiritual helpers. But whatever you need, you should reach out to, because you are worth it. You matter. You are precious. The world would not be the same without you. So it's so important for you to know that you are loved and that there is help there for you. And you'll notice it, maybe, perhaps notice, because heaven is always there to help us, and it comes sometimes at the 11th hour. I was thinking about this again the other day. Of all the times I've been saved, and I'm sure a part of me as a young woman screamed within myself, help. And they arrived. Did I ask for it verbally? No. But they still arrived. And they arrived for you as well. I am no more special in the eyes of heaven than anybody else. They love us all equally. They love us all equally. And so know that you have a hotline too, just as much as I do. So use that hotline, but also seek out the helpers on earth as well. Or ask for them to find you, because they're there. And none of us should be going through this alone. And sometimes, just it's so important to forgive those who are around you, because sometimes those who are around us, they don't know, they can't know what you're fully going through, as I said. So it's so important to value yourself and love yourself enough to reach out. And we can all get through this together. So reach out for the helpers. Okay? So this time, the earth seems to be on its axis. And by the way, to flip on its axis energetically before. But this is a whole different meaning to flipping on the axis. As I said in my podcast last week, and I was talking last week about love and expectation, I've noticed, and I was disappointed, that those that I would look to in a religious capacity, such as ministers and priests, it's like they flipped on their axis, and where you can sometimes find the most hate are in religious leaders. Not all. Some are very holy. But you have to be discerning. You can't assume. And we see that on those who are a little bit more known with their names, even on TV or, in the news in some way. And we also see this in our everyday lives. So you can't assume that if someone is in a religious leader authority, that they're going to be holy or that they're going to be loving. Because, whoa, it continued this week, seeing religious leaders being racist, intolerant, mean, and we can only send them love. But also you may notice that, I noticed it this week, that people around you are acting in a way you didn't expect. I worked in 2 different states this week. I worked in the South and I worked in the North. And I've been a bit surprised this week when I went down South. Wow, I kind of wanted to go in like a sheep. It's a topsy-turvy time down there. There are statues coming down. There's protests. And I went with the assumption that there might be some angry people down there who, because my clients tend to be older down there that I go visit, But it's not what I found. I found the clients that I went to visit were wanting to communicate. They wanted to understand. They wanted to understand the times and what's going on. And they wanted to listen. And I was amazed. They seemed to understand that these are times that are changing. And they wanted to be a part of it in some ways. Not all, but a lot more than I expected. And then up here in the north, when I came back, there were people that were leave the statues alone, and it's history, and full of intolerance and confessing to being confused and lost, but not always wanting to listen. And this isn't by the way, meant to be a degradation of a certain part of my country here in America. It's just not, didn't match expectation. I'm told up here, I see up here, that there is a heritage in the South that wants to be kept. So I expected to hear about that. But when I went down there was an evolution going on. And I was, it made me smile because it was very spiritual in nature. And up here, I didn't expect there to be heritage involved or ways of life involved, but there was. So I'm seeing who expectations about what role or what I've been taught, and it's different than what I've been taught. And it's the changing times. It's the times we're living in. Same with more personal relationships and professional relationships. I'm watching people confront their dark shadows. And I'm also watching people celebrate their dark shadows. And it's amazing. It's amazing. But I would tell you, good listeners, that even those who celebrate their dark shadows will eventually give up their dark shadows to join the light. So it is important not to place judgment on anyone, as hard as it can be at times. It's hard not to judge someone who is being racist or intolerant or mean or unloving. It's hard. But they're going through their stuff. They're going through what they were taught. They're going through what they know. That's why it's so important to make sure what you're teaching your children and your grandchildren is what you really want them to learn. Make sure that you're teaching them to be a highest version of themselves, and that you're ever working on being the highest version of yourself. Not only are we all coming to that, but it makes for a better life. It makes for a better earth. And so I'm watching, and I'm, sometimes I step in when called. Sometimes they bring me in. Sometimes I just watch. If you find there are people around you that you see celebrating their dark shadows or grappling with their dark shadows, just send them love. How do you send them love? Well, if you feel like they might laugh at you or not receive it, you always do it energetically, through your thoughts, through words, but also through feelings, through energy. Just send them a wave of it across to them. You can send it to groups, you can send it to individuals. They'll feel it too. They'll know they're getting it. They won't maybe understand where it's coming from, but they'll feel it. It'll mellow them out a bit. It'll cause them to stop and think about what's happening. And in some way, even if it's not directly at first or as massive as it can be, in some way, they will be positively affected by it. And it will make their world better. It's the same that if someone isn't feeling well, you can send them healing energy. Some call it prayers. Yeah, it's the same thing. Prayers, healing, it's all the same. You can send it to them. And with the intention of them coming to their fullest self, the fullest wellness, the fullest happiness, the fullest calm, the fullest peace, whatever you would hope for them. So this is a time in a metaphysical way where we are illuminating to eliminate our dark shadows. And good listeners, we all have them. I have them too. I have them too. And I've been working on them, I think, for my entire adulthood. But I am still a work in progress. And I've made progress. I've made inroads. And I'm very happy about that. Less work later. But still, I every day have to work on being what I call less human, less triggered, because I get very emotional about people who hate. I hate hate, so I have to work on that. I have to work on knowing that love overcomes hate, and to always be in that state of love no matter what's around me, no matter what. It's also important, and I've been talking a lot about this week with my clients, it's always important to try and understand during this time another person's story. You can't understand it completely. You can't. If you are a white person, it is impossible for you to understand the life of a black person or an Asian person or a Native American person. It's not possible. You cannot. So don't even try to say that you can or do. But can you listen? Can you try to understand that there's no way that you can understand? Can you ask questions? Yes. Can you gather information? Can you become educated? Yes. You should, honestly. Because there's a story there. There's a story that you haven't lived. So it's very important that you not step back and judge what you feel you should judge. Your voice should always be of love. It should not be of judgment. Meaning, well, if they just behaved themselves, that wouldn't have happened. That's not true, by the way. That's not true. Or if they just did this, or if they just did that. Try to understand. Ask. I'm not living your story. Now you might get defensiveness. You might get, you can't understand, so I'm not going there. But you don't even have to ask directly. Read the interviews. Listen. Don't assume. Because we're in an upside down world. Don't assume that protesters are one group. There are instigators out there. There's a truth. There are literally people trying to start a race war right now that are masquerading. So be careful. Be discerning. Keep your eye on what's trying to be done and not just on what you see in the way of destruction. So important at this time. And for those of you like me who are going through your dark shadow time, just take care of yourself. I was sappy yesterday. I didn't feel loved yesterday, even though I had clients who walked in yesterday and were so loving towards me. And I appreciated it, and it made me smile. I still had a day where I didn't feel loved. And that's my job, to take care of that. How do you feel loved? Or bring about that for yourself when you're feeling it? I have to be loving towards me. I also have to make sure I don't take things personally. Or maybe I just have to honor things where they are at times. But it's always an inside job. It's always a personal job. It's, why I've said to you, reach out for the helpers. It's also important that we're always working on our own healing, that we're always taking care of ourselves. And that's my job to do, is to make sure I'm all right. The more I like and love myself, the more I know that others will love me, or I can have the hope that they will. It might mean that relationships change around me. It might mean I just get more. But it starts with me, and it starts with you. What you want more of starts with you. Feel more love for yourself, get more love. Feel more wealth in your life, you'll have more wealth. Appreciate your relationships, you'll have greater relationships. You have to go along with the bumpy ride at times, but it will all line up. It will. But please understand that these are times when you might wake up depressed and not fully understand why. Because times are changing, we're becoming all more sensitive, we're becoming more intuitive. Might do a show on that next week, how to develop that intuition and know it. We're becoming more connected to each other. So when one is suffering, you're going to feel it. So do know sometimes your depression is not even really a lot about you. It's about what you're picking up. So that's why it's very important to take care of yourself. But if it is about you, if you feel tired, if you want it all to calm down, well, it's not going to do it as long as you command it, because there's divine purpose going on. But it is important, if you're tired, to get rest. If you want things to calm down, to seek peace, go for the walk. Go for the swim. Walk on the beach. Walk in the mountains. Whatever you need to bring yourself calm and peace, this is the time to do it. But do know we're all being jerked around on the ride. So take each day, one day at a time. The energy is turning. You may see with this flip of the axis, thank you, that those who were intolerant before are now tolerant. Those that you thought were loving are not loving anymore. Those that you thought weren't interested are now asking questions. I'm ever surprised at what is coming out of people, and you're probably going to be surprised too, and surprised about what comes out of yourself. But in order for that energy to come to earth, the dark shadows have to be illuminated in order to be cleaned out. So allow those dark shadows to rise, and allow them to rise in the others around you. Because what's exposed has to be healed. So believe it or not, through all the chaos, there is healing taking place that will bring a better world to all of us. It won't be tomorrow, but it is in process. And remember, you can always ask for help. And if you want to hear from your angels, spirit guides, the ascended masters such as Jesus and Moses, that is available to you through my website, Channeled Messages. But you can also talk to them yourself. Just center yourself and see the signs, because they often answer in very synchronistic ways. But they're there for you to help you navigate these times. And if you have friends that leave you, love them and wish them well. And if you have friends coming on board, welcome them. These are changing times. And we're all in this together. It may not seem it, but we're all in this together. Once again, happy Father's Day to the fathers. Thank you so much for joining me today. Be sure to check out my website at lisahopp.com. That's lisahopp.com. And I hope you have a peaceful, enjoyable, happy, fun Sunday and a wonderful week. Thank you. Many blessings.